Hello everyone, my name is Saras and I am from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. I have been involved in researching sustainable fashion for around a year now, and today I'm going to share with you some interesting facts and some interesting things about the fashion industry and sustainable fashion itself. So now let's talk about fashion. Over the last 30 years, the fashion industry has undergone a dramatic transformation. We all know how technology has improved, and this is also accompanied by the improvement in the global supply chain, which allows fast fashion to become the dominant mode of production and consumption of fashion worldwide. This transformed the meaning of clothing from being a durable good to being a daily purchase for many consumers to stay current with the ever-changing fashion trends. Because of these supply chain and technology improvements, fashion becomes cheaper and also more disposable. We can get a piece of clothing as from a nearby fast fashion store, fast fashion retailer for maybe as low as 30 to 50 Hong Kong dollars. And if we try to find it online, maybe that can be even lower to like 15 or 30 Hong Kong dollars. In the past 15 years, clothing sales has doubled, while actually the utilization rate has decreased by around 15%. This means that now people buy more clothes, but they wear it for less. And not only that we wear it for less, but we also dispose our clothes a lot easier. Because of this cheap price, some people do not really think twice in disposing their clothing items. This survey in the UK shows that 26% of people throw away their clothes just because they don't like it anymore. This is really showing how fashion and clothing are disposable now because they can just throw it away when they don't like it anymore. Or another 7% of the people, they throw away their clothes when they feel like they don't need it anymore. The other reasons may be more familiar to us, like our clothing being damaged, stained, lost shape, or worn out, or even didn't fit us anymore. But from this graph, we can actually see how fashion becomes more disposable now. And this way, our way of producing and consuming fashion right now is really ruining our earth. Let's watch a short video to see an example of what the fashion industry does to our earth. But it is not only about the fashion industry. I feel like it can be easy for some people to just put the blame on the industry, but this is also a consumption problem. So let's watch this video. This video is from DW, is taken from the big fashion garbage dump in Atacama Desert, Chile. It's the Great Fashion Garbage Patch.
A splash of colour in the desert. A giant clandestine dump emerges from the rocky hills. Tons of discarded clothes. They come from everywhere, Europe, Asia or the United States. Local garment traders buy them by the container load for a pittance. They sort out what they think can be sold on. Others are recycled. The rest of these clothes, which have been transported halfway around the world, end up in places like this. The leftovers of consumerism running out of control. According to local authorities, this dump is illegal. The owner of the land disputes that. You must understand that this is recycling, not a landfill. He paints his activity here as a work of charity. Migrants fleeing Bolivia and Venezuela cross this desert on foot to enter Chile. The immigrants come from their country without clothes, so they come and take them. They ask for permission, and they do it. Some of the poorest people living in the Atacama also come here to rummage for clothes they need for their families or that they can sell in nearby towns. More than half of the 59,000 tons of clothing which ends up in Chile every year ends up dumped in the desert. Globally, it's estimated that so-called fast fashion creates 92 million tons of textile waste every year. The clothes are not biodegradable, and toxic chemicals used in their production also pollute soil and groundwater.
All right, so from this video, we can really see how problematic disposable fashion is. We have that great fashion garbage patch It's really big and it's really alarming, really concerning. And we can see that actually there are still a lot of good quality items there. If people can still go there and just salvage clothes that are still in good quality there, and they can use it, they can wear it for their family or for the migrants. And that means that the quality of the clothes that are thrown away are still okay, are still good, and people can still wear it, but it is disposed. So that is a problem. And this problem is really polluting our earth. But the negative impacts of fashion is not only about the waste, it is also about the production. According to the European Environment Agency, or EEA, fashion industry has the fourth highest impact on primary raw materials like water and petroleum. And this is after food, housing, and transportation industry. We can see that these illustrations from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation that the production of 1 kilogram of cotton garments uses up to 3 kilograms of chemicals. And in that video before, we also learned about how we have clothes that are non-biodegradable, because now we have polyester clothes, like plastic-based clothes. And this plastic-based clothes consumes the equivalent of more than 3 trillion plastic bottles every year. And here we can also see that the fashion industry consumes a lot of water. Textiles production from the farming part uses almost 100 billion cubic meters of water annually. And this represents 4% of global freshwater withdrawal. This is the amount of water that can be used for people to drink, where there are a lot of people who are having drought in their area, and instead this water goes to this highly water consuming industry. Other high impact areas of fashion is on resource consumption, carbon emissions, and microfibers. The same Ellen MacArthur Foundation report shows that back in 2015, the fashion industry consumes 98 million tons of oil, fertilizers, and chemicals, and this number is expected to go up to 300 million tons in 2050. The carbon emission is not better either. In 2015, the fashion or textile industry uses 2% of the carbon budget based on the 2-degree scenario, and this number is expected to go up as well to 26% in 2050. And last but not least, it's about the microfibers. We know this culprit, we all have heard about microfibers, and we may be looking at 22 million tons of microfibers added to our ocean between 2015 and 2050. And now we have seen the graphs, we have seen the data. Let's take a look at some pictures that really show us how fashion industry is polluting our earth and our communities. Here we can see how the dyes used in the fashion industry pollutes our rivers, threatening water supplies for many communities that rely on these rivers for their water supply. And here we can also see a combination of chemicals, water consumption, and perhaps unfair labor treatment. This is jeans production. And according to the United Nations Environment Program, or UNEP, one pair of jeans needs 3,781 liters of water to produce. And that amount is roughly the amount of water that we need to drink for 5 years. 5 years of water. Jeans production is also a production that needs a lot of dye, and we never know how the factories treat their workers. So that can also lead to unfair labor treatment in this industry. Now we have been looking into the global trends, but what about Hong Kong? We Hong Kongers love our clothing. We spend 11% of our monthly expenditures on clothing. This is higher than healthcare and education. And from these clothes, almost 1/3 of them are never or rarely worn. And even worse, 38% of Hong Kongers only keep their clothes for 1 year or less before recycling, donating, reselling it, or throwing it in the bin. I hope you still remember the clothes utilization graph, because this has showed up again. I showed this again because it is interesting to look at this graph in more detail, because we have seen that the clothes utilization rate goes down significantly in the global scale. Now we don't have the Hong Kong data, but we have the China data. So we can see that in China, the clothing utilization rate has gone down significantly. And this is compared to the US, EU, and even the rest of the world. And all these clothes that we wear for just a short amount of time, they go to our landfills. Hong Kong households sends 163 tons of textile waste that end up in our landfills every day. This is around 2.4% of Hong Kong's municipal solid waste. And from this amount, only 0.5% of it is recycled. So we can infer from here that recycling initiatives, while they are good, they are a start, but they are not that significant compared to the rate of clothing consumption that we are at right now. We really need to find another way, a new way to really revamp this so that this industry, this fashion consumption can be more sustainable from the very start until the use and the disposal stage. And that is why we need to change. We need sustainable fashion, which is defined as clothing, which is designed, produced, reused, and disposed in a way that is aligned with the concept of sustainable development. I am part of a research team investigating sustainable fashion in Hong Kong. And last year, we were part of an international research team, which analyzes the changes in fashion consumption attitude and behavior during COVID-19 across 9 countries or regions, which are Hong Kong, Finland, the UK, Germany, Switzerland, Czech Republic, the US, Iran, and India. And now I will share some of our findings because I think this will be really interesting to see the state of sustainable fashion that we have right now in Hong Kong. And this can also be compared to the other countries or regions that are involved in this study. So based on our survey analysis, we found that before the pandemic, unsustainable fashion acquisition practices, which are discount shopping, impulse buying, and buying more than needed, these are the unsustainable fashion practices defined in the study, they generally receive more positive attitude than sustainable acquisition practices, which are swapping, DIY or redesigning, buying secondhand, borrowing clothes, and repairing clothes. When they receive more positive attitude, that means that Hong Kongers see them more positively and they agree more to practicing these things compared to the other things. And although the attitudes are more positive for unsustainable fashion practices, our respondents also show varying levels of positive attitude on the sustainable fashion mindsets, which are trying to limit shopping trips, trying to set firm limits on apparel consumption, purchasing durable apparel, and avoiding buying new apparel. So they agree more to these statements, but to the actual behaviors, as we can see here, they don't agree as much. So they already have the mindset, or they feel that they have the mindset, but the practices themselves, they don't really see them positively. They don't really agree to that. And we can see that in more detail when we're looking at the actual behavior of the people. The actual behaviors, which are here, listed here, the sustainable fashion behaviors are not common at all. We can see that the top 3 are all unsustainable fashion practices, and the rest of the sustainable fashion practices are lower, which are tailoring, apparel swapping, secondhand shopping, apparel lending, apparel borrowing, ethically made apparel consumption, sustainable apparel consumption, and apparel repairing. And this is even more alarming because when we compare this to the international study, Hong Kong actually ranks the lowest in all sustainable fashion consumption behavior. And these low numbers became even lower because of the pandemic. If we take a look at the green bars, the highest decreases of consumption of practices that happened during the COVID-19 pandemic happen in tailored apparel, impulse buying, and secondhand apparel shopping. This is because Hong Kongers really care about hygiene. This is one of the findings that we had in our study. And on the other hand, we can also see a sharp net increase in online shopping. And it is represented by the sharp increase in the red bar. The pandemic has allowed people to use their free time to buy from brands not available in Hong Kong or to start to surf Instagram profiles related to clothing. And while we're on the topic of online shopping, there's a very interesting yet alarming rising trend, which is ultra fast fashion. This was not really mentioned by our respondents, but I believe this will be the next big thing because online shopping is on the rise in Hong Kong and we have quite good logistics systems. So it is easy for us to get goods from overseas. And we all know online shopping retailers like Zalora or ASOS, but now we have Shein. Shein is an ultra fast fashion company whose valuation can top H&M and Zara combined, according to Bloomberg article. And they are called ultra fast fashion because they add thousands of new styles every day in numbers that are far higher than its competitors. This is the number of new styles added in the US only year to date. And you can see that it is very, very much higher than Zara or H&M group. And when I went to the Shein website, I tried to check what Shein looks like and what are the products that they sell and how much are the products. I can see that they are pricing it at a very cheap price. Here are some items that I think are normally priced at 30 to 50 Hong Kong dollars, or even usually I think 50 Hong Kong dollars in H&M or Zara, but it is priced on Shein on $19 on discount, 20 to 30 Hong Kong dollars normal, although we don't really know whether this is the real price or it is just marked up and the normal price is $19. And whichever is the price, Shein is the ultimate face of fashion consumption nowadays, especially fashion overconsumption, especially with all the Shein hauls on TikTok and YouTube. And just look at how cheap they are. And the quality is not really good either. And this is the ultimate face of fashion being cheap and disposable. There's also another interesting yet alarming trend, which is live stream shopping. But this is not really a trend yet in Hong Kong, although this is a big trend in mainland China. And why is this alarming? Because live stream shopping, it really forces us to shop on impulse. Like when we see it, we want to buy it and we buy it on that live stream. So that is really driving us to consume more fashion, and it leaves us less time to think. So we can just buy and think later. And if we don't like it, maybe we can return it or even throw it away. So to conclude, fashion is a highly polluting industry from the very start of the production until the end of life of the products in our landfills. There are some changes due to the pandemic, which decreases people's fashion consumption, but it also uncovers this new opportunity of online fashion shopping, which can be a big thing in the future, especially with the rise of live stream shopping and, more importantly, ultra fast fashion. And because of all these trends and facts, we will need to make the fashion industry and our fashion consumption more mindful and sustainable so that our Earth can become more livable. Thank you very much. I'll end the presentation here.